Hi everyone, I'm Maithili from Red. Just wanted to say a quick thank you to Kanchan and everyone at Foaid associated with this fabulous event over the past few days. We've had some scintillating keynote addresses, juries, and discussions. Um, Today's topic is about dark skies, which, contrary to the title, has been quite illuminating for me. What exactly is a dark sky, and why is it important to us architects, planners, designers, and just residents of the earth? We will be exploring the expert opinions on perspectives of ALAN, which is artificial light at night. Without further delay, to tell you a little bit more about this, I will introduce our panelists, um, who are luminaries in this field. All of them have successful practices or businesses, so I'm hoping to get some real world insights from them. We have, first off, Siddharth Mathur. Siddharth is a trained architect and a lighting designer who runs an award winning creative lighting design studio Lumen in Dubai. Studio Lumen was set up in 2003, and in the last 16 years of his professional experience, he has worked on projects in the Middle East, India, and Africa. His work primarily attempts to create effect-based lighting design within the built environment. We are excited to see some of his work later today, and he's making real inroads into addressing this issue of the dark skies. We also have Sarvdeep Basur, one of the most experienced lighting designers of the country, one that has done a lot of cutting-edge work concerning the dark skies. He is the principal of Lucent Worldwide, a leading lighting design practice with offices in India, Germany, China, and Qatar. Sarvdeep has 3 decades of experience and has completed more than 5,000 large and small creative projects, some of which are the Sydney Opera House, the Kunming Convention Center, the Edition Hotel in Sanya, which is stunning, just FYI, the International Financial Center Changchun, the Shenzhen City Landscape Lighting Project, and closer to home, the Golden Temple, the Brideshwara Temple, and the Pink City Illumination Project of Jaipur. For the Shenzhen City Lighting Illumination and Beautification Project, Sarvdeep was awarded and invited to speak at the European Parliament on how the new lightscape reduced light pollution and yet to beautify the city. We also have Adreesh Chakraborty of the Earth Home, which is an architect and interior furniture design studio providing master planning, architecture, interior design, and MEP services in residential, education, hospitality, healthcare, retail, commercial sectors, with projects all across the Indian subcontinent. After more than a decade of founding and successfully running an architectural practice, Adreesh co-founded the Earth Home with Ina Basur in 2017 with the intent of designing and building in communion with the earth. The Earth Home today is thoroughly engaged in research and development towards creating applicable building technologies that can contribute creating a thriving future for the planet. The Earth Home is also engaged with various architecture schools and universities to expand 360 degrees awareness and to help change course towards a conscious future. And also we have Ajay Nahar, who is an architect and a developer. This young entrepreneur of Nahar Projects is a graduate from the Academy of Architecture, Mumbai, with a master's degree in construction project management from the UK. For about 19 years now, this young entrepreneur has established a strong base for a futuristic growth in the construction industry by delivering projects that are redefining the face of luxury in the city. Being an architect and an avid traveler, he keeps himself up to date about the innovations and materials in the industry and around the world. This simple but efficient style of working has bagged him 3 prestigious awards. That is the Young Architect Award in 2010, the Best Business Practices by Accommodation Times in 2014, and the Young Achiever Award by South Mumbai by Real Estate Icons. for his ultra-luxury project Excalibur at Mahalakshmi, Mumbai. As you can see, we have a real strong lineup of speakers today. I will give it over to the experts to shed some light on the matter. Siddharth, could you help us understand what exactly is a dark sky and why is it that it's such an important issue in today's times?
Well, absolutely. I mean, thank you for having me on this panel to share my views. Dark sky is actually a very, very simple concept, and like the topic suggests or the name suggests, it's preserving the darkness of the sky, which means reducing light pollution in our cities and avoiding reflection of light back into the sky, which creates or hampers your view to the sky. I mean, the sky and the stars and the celestial objects have such a huge relevance in history and civilization and our culture that being able to see this magic with your naked eye was just something that was taken for granted and was something that was available and free. And in our cities today, we've literally lost it. We've lost the ability to physically see stars and the constellations, and that's what my presentation will talk more about. I mean, I just wanted to start really at a very basic level. What really is a dark sky? So, is a place where darkness of the night sky is relatively free from interference of the artificial light. And I use the word interference here because artificial light is something that is new, whereas the sky and the constellations and the stars have been around for far longer than we initially anticipate. So it literally is trying to control light spill into the night sky. And a bit about how is it measured. So there's a bottle scale which measures the darkness of the sky based on visibility by the naked eye. So it's a very simple scale from 1 to 9, depending on 9 being the worst, 1 is the best, depending on the location and depending on the site. One can make an assessment of how many stars or how many constellations or galaxies are visible, and that just basically classifies at what level your sky is. So, I mean, just to give you an introduction, I mean, these are just some images of natural skies. None of this is, touched up in Photoshop or what have you. All of these are natural sky away, at different places around the world. And I mean, just look at it, how beautiful it is. It is something that is available free. It's abundant, and we are losing touch of this. And I know I just want to quickly touch upon some design principles as well. So when we look at lighting design, it's actually a combination of manipulating light as well as darkness. I mean, if you look at the whole spectrum during the whole day, light or daylight is something that is completely dynamic, is changing, and the same thing happens in the night as well. As the night progresses, the overall brightness in the sky and the visibility of the night sky changes as well. And I believe that each intervention in design needs to sort of be responsive to that, needs to be sensitive towards this phenomena. And I would just like to quickly take you through some examples. I mean, these are projects that we've done at our studio. A project like this, which was a resort on an island off the coast of Qatar. So when we looked at lighting this project, this was, let's say on the bottle scale was a 3, which was a rural sky. So we thought that we need to be responsive and sensitive to that. So all of the lighting is, it's below eye level or it's really high up. So nothing is obtrusive. There's been a huge attempt to control reflection back into the sky as well. And just for people to understand, I also then did a study and a quick sketch that what would we have done differently if this would need to be an excellent dark sky, which would be number 1 on the bottle scale. So in that particular case, you would really have to bring the light sources down towards the surfaces that are being lit only. A lot more reflected light would be used to be sensitive. This is another project which is here in Dubai, quite close to us, which was, let's say, a rural/suburban sky. So it was, let's say, a grade 4 sky. So to prevent this, we really had to, look at very, very innovative details to hide the equipment, to ensure that, the interior lighting that spills out also is controlled. And for us now, if we study of what we would have done differently, if we sort of were to take it to the best case example, we would not have actually been able to have many of the features lit up, because that does create a backspill, or creates a reflected light going back into the sky. So, I just wanted to use these examples to quickly, identify on some of the actual principles and some of the do's and don'ts. But all of this eventually comes back down to matters of good practice and sensitivity. It's all about controlling the light. It's about controlling reflections, and it's about enhancing the space that you're designing for. And I mean, that really is the true essence of design in itself. Even installations like these, which are art installations, and lighting along a pathway on a beach. Now, these are the things where mostly people tend to feel that brighter is better, but it actually is not. I mean, I always say that in our studio we've got a running slogan that less is more, and sometimes I say even less is even more. You really need to be very sensitive to the location that the project is in, and treat light sensitively. That's all from my side. Just needed to take a couple of seconds to thank my brilliant team that has helped me put this presentation together. Over to you, Maithili.
Thank you, Siddharth. Those visuals and drawings were really stunning, and I think they did get your point across. It's very helpful to see see them as you speak and explain things to us.
Thank you.
Sarvdeep, you and your team has been one of the earliest and most experienced people in India to make inroads on this light pollution issues. Not only have you come up with solutions, but you have a lot of awareness programs to create awareness amongst people about the causes and ramifications of this kind of insensitive lighting. So, if you could speak a little bit more about that, that would be great.
Thank you, Mathili, and great little presentation, Siddharth. It was quite enlightening and very nice.
Thank you very
I
much.
love, I love the Qatar resort. I've been there. It
Oh, have
really.
you? Okay, great. Thank you so much.
I did
Yeah,
not
that was
know.
a award-winning project for us
I did
here
not know that
in the
you've
Middle
done
East.
it. It's really
Right.
very nice.
And the
Thank you.
drawings are so evocative of what he's speaking
Yeah.
about. So.
Actually,
Thank you. That's my team. Credit to my team.
well
Yes,
done.
Sarvdeep.
Well done. So, last 30 years, I could actually divide them into three parts. And the first part of my practice and working as a lighting designer was actually satisfying my hunger and people's hunger and buildings' hunger for light or more light. In those days, that was more light, more the better. And it took some time to get into less to better and very less to even better. But that was the time when everybody thought that way. And that was the time when we started working abroad. In India, there was hardly any work for facade lighting, and that little difference would in the sky would not even matter. So when we would do something very bright, it would be a wow. That's how the India Gate was lit up in the late 20th century for the first time. 1995 it was, and it looked like that. So in the second part, we started bringing in art in lighting, and that was later part of 1990s and early 2000s. And it was only after when everybody started lighting up buildings, and we had so many buildings lit up in a city, that we started thinking about, uh, you know, uh, about the dark skies, because what was happening was all these buildings were competing against each other. The architects were competing against each other. The lighting designers were competing. Those whole, making things brighter and better, especially when China happened in our life. We started working in China, uh, and lighting became cheap when the LEDs were uh, came into existence and into commercial use, and everybody could afford facade lighting or illuminating buildings, and they thought that it was probably the most economical way of highlighting what they'd done. So lighting, everybody started lighting buildings in China, and this was in 2010 and 11. And that is when we started realizing that there's no end to it. If somebody is doing it in say X nits, that's the illumination level on the building. Let me do it 2x, and then Siddharth would come and do it 4x. That's what was happening, and so it was basically the gluttony of uh, of more light was what it was, and then we started working on the Shenzhen landscape lighting project. And honestly, as the buildings were so bright, our landscapes would not even, be noticeable. So in one area, which is one of the most prominent areas of the city, we convinced the government, the local government there, to reduce the lighting levels. And when they reduced the lighting levels, and the landscape lighting started to show, and with the reduced lighting levels, the building started to look more beautiful, and people could see the difference between, you know, X building and the building right next to it. Before that, all the buildings would look the same. They would have these media facades of the building and everything looking the same. And that is when things really changed for us, and it was quite an experience. And then we started really working on our principle that no light.
Adreesh, you co-founded this successful practice, Earth Home, and the name itself speaks volumes about your concern for this planet. Could you share a practicing architect's point of view on how you sort of deal with these concerns?
Uh, Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone, and Mathili, thank you so much for getting in touch, and kind of this topic is quite close to my heart. Though I had to kind of look at it from a lighting perspective, and when I mean the Earth Home, when we created the Earth Home, we created it from a point and from a space where the Earth is our home, and we as carbon-based beings, whatever way we try to go and populate any other planets, the best possibility of that is for AI to go and populate other planets. But as carbon-based beings, we are going to be here on Earth for a few millennia, and it's better to start taking care of this earth as our home rather than trying and damaging it the way we have been doing it. So I've put together a small presentation. The dark sky happens to be a pretty topic which is pretty close to where we are working with. So can you see this slide?
Yes.
So this is an image. Of course, we all know what this image is like. Why I wanted to show this was that when I was in say early 80s, I got a world atlas from a cousin of mine who's a few years senior to me. And there was this image of this printed on the world atlas. And the number of lights on that were way less than what we're seeing here. And over a period, and when I first saw that image, it really shook me, that this is the impact that we have on a planet on this scale. We are such small beings on this planet, and this is the kind of impact that we have, and we can see what we are doing from space. of course, it's a matter of pride and all for a lot of, for us as individuals and as a civilization, but our impact is really visible from everywhere. And it's if you look at the population boom that has happened, so I'm talking about 80s, early 80s, and from there, today we have added almost double the number of people on the planet in the last 30 years. So we are at about 4.5 billion, then we are at about 7.8 billion people now. It's the most number of people the world has ever seen. So it is all the more reason, and more people are now staying in cities and urban areas, and urban areas are getting more and more congested, and of course, if people are staying, then there are issues of safety, there's issue of community, all these sort of things that we as architects, like planners, lighting designers, all this come together to see this. So this image is just to give you a sort of a overall perspective of the Earth. I mean, the Earth is one of my favorite planets. I love to see it from whatever angle I can see it. So zooming down, this is the kind of image we get when we kind of look at cities closely. So closer to the ground, we see buildings, streets, intersections, open spaces, all of it, and all of them are being lit up with various kinds of norms that are being set. So if you refer to the NBC, which is the document in India, and if you refer to other documents, everybody's setting out a norm for lighting, which for one individual space for a particular building is fine. But when you put all of it together, this is the kind of mess we make out of the whole situation. This is just a lot of light, and this photograph is pretty far away. When you come down to the street level, at the street level, we add our neon signs, our show windows, and cars and vehicles, their headlights, the buses, their headlights are working to another set of norms from the automotive industry, as to what safety is, and it's just when all of it comes together, we are basically, I mean, light pollution is probably also a very soft word to use for it. We are basically in the midst of it. So, what we were looking at was that, like both Siddharth and Sarvdeep have been talking about, that less is more and even less is even more, is that our bodies are phenomenal. Our bodies are probably the best possible, computer or whatever you call it. We won't be able to even go anywhere close to this kind of a mechanism very soon, as even with robots and whatever we get AI. So one of the basic things that we look at is that our eyes can dilate. So in high light situations, when there's a high degree of light, our eyes are become smaller, like an aperture of a camera. And when it's dark, they kind of dilate and can get it more light. And it's not only this particular function that is there. There are other functions of color perception, as well as being able to see form in black and white, which increases as you go, as you see yourself, or as you see in the dark. I remember very clearly, we were in one of our into a forest. Uh, we were with the locals. The locals were just running through the tracks, and we were like sitting there with our torches, our illumination equipment, and we could hardly see beyond the till where the torch was showing us, probably 2 meters, and over the side of the hill, we could see nothing. And over a period of time, over probably an hour's time, our bodies became comfortable with the way this environment was, and slowly realized that, wow, we can actually see. There was a little bit of moonlight, and there were stars, and there was some villages very far away. And that's the first time we actually realized, that we can actually see in the dark. And I remember on that same trip, we took a photograph, exposure, and the photograph, I do not have that photograph, but the photograph almost looked like what I'm showing you right now. It almost looked like the skies lit up. And it's amazing the amount of light that is actually there, and we let our bodies perceive that. We've also, throughout history, we need this artificial lighting. We are lighting our cities right now. Throughout history, as good lit our environments, lamps, candles, and this image is just sort of a, I would say, a different perspective or a paradigm shift, that's how I want to put it here. That this is also a sort of a space. It's got some sort of a scale to it. And if you see, it's just candles. There's no artificial light as such, but it's just candles which are there on the floor. It just gives a sort of a hue and a glow to the whole space. And the reason we are able to do this is because of the difference between the dark and the light and what it is throwing. It doesn't matter if it is so many lumens or not. It matters whether there's a degree of darkness, and in contrast to that, how much we see, how much light we see, and that is our bodies and our eyes perceive. And there's a degree of nurturance in what I would just like to.
Adreesh, could you move closer to the microphone, please?
Yeah, sure. So this is a project we did, and we have been very lucky. Sarvdeep has been working with us. So this is a project called Six Villas, which we did. Sarvdeep and I worked together on this project. So this is just to give you a small example. This is basically a 6-acre site. There are 6 residential villas in this project, and just some progress on the landscape. Sarvdeep was very, very instrumental in creating this. He and his team were phenomenal. Through all the discussions with the clients, and we managed to create where we absolutely didn't do any sort of direct lighting on anything. I mean, we tried to work with indirect lighting, and if you see these images on the floor, if you see on the surface, we've just got indirect lighting. Very few gold hearts and all are sprinkled here and there, but we just lit up the trees, and certainly it was just brilliant at what it did. And we lit up the water body, we lit up the edges of the pool, and this whole space. I mean, during the day, of course, it looks great with the architecture and the landscape. But during the night, the place just transforms, and there's zero light pollution in this. I mean, your body's at ease, your eyes are at ease, and you can just float through the space. And it's just created such a nice environment for the inhabitants as well as everybody who goes and visits the space is really in awe of how the landscaping and lighting has come together. In the same project, we got a building, 6 buildings. Of course, the way we also did up the buildings was that we just picked up elements in the buildings and we did that stand out and kept everything else in the dark. Of course, it's a dark shot, so you see a bit of the sky, but you won't see this light being thrown at the sky. So if you see the cantilevers, the light is stopping at the cantilever. There's nothing being thrown back into the sky. Another small, just an image of an interior project, very interesting, is that, we just did this lighting studio. And in this lighting studio, what we just did was that we just lit what was absolutely necessary to light, which was basically this work and conference space in this lighting studio, in this particular space. And the rest of it, we just hung some lights, just to give the effect of sort of a star-lit kind of environment. So what we are trying to say with this is that what is nurturing is nurturing for the planet. Our bodies are creating. If we and we look beyond to a certain extent, and we work with the authorities to work on the roads, to work on what is the level of light and required, use that as a difference. Look at the difference. Dark light. Essential thing I get that light is actually a pollution, and the pollution is actually in the long run. If you look at Sarvdeep is going to give you a lot of feedback on how the insects and how the food cycle and all that in the long run gets affected with it. So yeah, so that kind of.
Great.
Yeah, thank you, Adreesh. Your visuals were very clear on how one could adopt certain methods to be sensitive towards lighting. Before we come back to Sarvdeep, I want to move on to Ajay, who wears many hats: architect, developer, concerned citizen. Ajay, from a developer's perspective, I'm sure you have a slightly different viewpoint. I think we all understand that lighting makes a human being feel safe and secure, especially in an urban environment. Would love to hear your thoughts on how this is being done sensitively by your practice or in your opinion these days.
Thank you,
Over to
Maithili.
you. Over to you.
First, I just want to just check whether I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, perfect. So, hello, all the panelists and the virtual audience. Thank you, Foaid, for inviting me. In pure architecture, the smallest detail should have a meaning and serve a purpose. With that, I want to present a project done by me, recently completed by Nahar Projects. It's called Excalibur by Nahar, and it's located at Mahalakshmi, and it's one of its kind luxury building. And so the I would like to express my views on the sensitive lighting that we have adopted for this project. Can we go on to the next slide? Admin, can we? Yeah, thank you. So, just want to, before I come to the view of the entire building, just want to highlight the top of the building. The top of the building was actually not very planned initially. We had a client who came and bought a triplex, and he said that we want something very different, do something to the top 3 floors. And then we came up with that square and highlighting. So that was like a challenge because we don't want the light reflections to go inside his house, and at the same time highlight the project from everywhere. There are not too many buildings in and around the area that are lit, so this becomes exclusively a different kind of a building. And smart lighting was very enough, was very important. So as we go along, I'll just tell you more. So uh, coming to the topic of dark sky, what makes the issue of dark sky special is that unlike other forms of environment pollution, it's very easy to deal with and very simple to solve. By just making a few swaps, you can control light pollution. So it's not that lighting is inherently pollution, or there is a difference between good lighting and not so good lighting. So too often we hear the phrase well lit when people really just mean super bright. But super bright lighting is not so good lighting. It doesn't make anyone any safer. It wastes money and it may be ugly. Well lit should mean subtle and beautiful and only what one needs. So, as architects and developers, we are very much aware of the concept of the dark sky, and hence, since at planning stage, we worked and tried to reduce our light pollution. Can we go on to the next slide? So this is the bottom part of the building, the parking floors, and the entire parking floor is covered with GRC, and this is the facade design of it, and it has a very intricate jali design, which we wanted to highlight in the night. So we use different kind of light fixtures which grazes grazes it rather than floodlights. So we lit it from everywhere. We don't use floodlights, and we kept the fittings just very close to the building. We did several mock-ups. We got from all over the world. We got our light fittings from Germany, from Dubai, from Tau Lighting, with our help of our lighting consultant, CDS Lighting. We did a lot of mock-up from across the road, try to understand how this light fittings which are coming from over the world, which will help us. But only after mock-ups we really understood what kind of light fittings we have to use, because sometimes the light fittings and the specifications are not just enough. You have to do a mock-up to understand how actually what you desire you achieve that. So this is the facade part of it at the bottom. Can we go on to the next slide? So our mindset was focused on the smallest details. So purchase and execution stage, we made sure to install all the light fittings which give ecological balance as well as a luxury quotient. Since the beam angle we selected was very tight, to overcome this, we carefully chose the right beam angle, gone with correct narrow beam fixture. So there were many company around the globe, and as I said, we tried to use something that washes the facade without entering on the sides of the building, because on one side we had a school, on one side we had tenant buildings, on the other side we have a synagogue. So we were surrounded, and on the fourth side we had a bridge where there was traffic. So it was surrounded by sensitive users, so we had to plan it in such a way. And on the black granite facade we did this starry lighting effect. Excalibur follows a theme of the Arthurian legacy, and everything that is designed in the building, right from the start to the top of the building, is following a theme, a legacy, so that the person doesn't miss out on the theme and feels like this is a timeless architecture. So with the use of light, we could enhance the architecture to a great extent, but at the same time being very sensitive about it, which I can talk to you later about. Can we go on to the next slide? So these are the other images. We used a horse, a wooden horse at the entrance, and a sword. So the sword had to be lit, and this is a sword in the stone of the Excalibur Almighty sword, and the horse is basically because it's facing the racecourse and looking at the view of the racecourse. So all the elements are juxtaposed together along with the racecourse, King Arthur. That's why the theme is that way. So we didn't highlight it too much, just like a soft lighting to the facade at the ground level also, because sensitive lighting at the ground level is also important, because in a place like Bombay there are people moving around the road in the night, so at the eye level that lighting really hurts. So we need to be more sensitive about it. So through craftsmanship you are telling your story about what makes a brand valuable. Next please. So this is the terrace, which is on the 26th floor. It was pretty challenging to light the terrace because it is a place where you are going to have your parties in the building. At the same time, the light should not hurt the eye, as well as highlight the crown of the building, because this is a crown which was 13 meters at height. So we had to put the light fittings in such a way that it does not hit the eye level even at the railing. So it's hidden, and then we had to put these potted plants to cover the light fitting at the railing, so you don't see the fitting anywhere. So everywhere the lighting is just grazing the columns and the elevation feature, and it's not directly hurting humans or coming in contact with eye level. The theme Excalibur, so we had to use our triangles, sword like forms to be highlighted in LED. Of course the bar and everything that you can see in the slide, it's not something that is going to be on a daily basis. It's only something that is going to be on at special occasions or events that are held. Next slide please. We already designed this with social distancing. All the tables are so far from each other. So this is the elevation of a green wall, which is 13-meter height. Again, we highlighted with soft lighting to just bring out the colors. It's an artificial green wall. This is a terrace lobby, so only a particular fitting which breaks the monotony of black and white was introduced, which has the unique sword-like point at the bottom, just to represent Excalibur. So we can turn these slides really fast because I don't want to talk detail about this. Next. Next, please. Even our chandeliers we design as per the logo. We added our logo. That's the logo which is there on the screen. and we added our logo and made our own chandelier and fittings in the lift lobby of the building. And if you see the chandelier and these are the lifts, elevators of the building, which has got sofa and carpet. So there is a particular kind of light which we customized for this. Next. So that's the sword, and how it goes in the rock. Even we use in a watchman cabin, we highlighted with LEDs a sword, because we just wanted that theme to be in the mind of the person while he's going up in your building. So next. This was the entrance lobby, and of course, just like any lobby should have a wow element, we did various kind of different lightings, but we did not use too much of automation. Neither we used means we didn't use automation at all, and neither we used. So we carefully planned the circuit in such a way that the lights have a particular time where they are on and offing, so that there is not too much of electricity wastage, and we reduce the carbon footprint. Next, please. This is how the building looks. This is the elevation after it's finished. It was challenging, but thank you very much to Tau Lighting, CDS Lighting, and our architects and our consultants and the project team, because doing such a thing is very challenging in our context. Thank you so much. Not audible.
Sorry. Thank you, Ajay. I'm sure as a developer, it's tough to wear these multiple hats and be sensitive to everybody's needs, and yet not worry about the commercials. So you seem to be doing what you can, and a good job with your efforts. We've managed to touch various aspects about the dark skies, but I do want Sarvdeep to present his presentation. And while you're doing it, Sarvdeep, if you could tell us some of the effects and long-term implications of insensitive lighting on our environment, and what are the ramifications we will face going forward as humans because of this. If you could tell us a little bit more, that would be good.
Thank you, Maithili. And actually, if we run the presentation, I can go with it. So let's go to the next slide. So, next, please. Light pollution actually affects everybody. When we say circadian cycle, and not only humans, animals, birds, and insects, even plants have their circadian cycles. So if you are illuminating at night, one needs to be extremely careful. It's not only for humans. These lights are for humans, but they're harmful for everybody else. And like I said, that absence of light is as important as the light itself. What I meant was that whenever you have some quantity of light, even if it is say 1 lux, which is, the light pollution is in most homes in Bombay, crowded parts of Bombay, the light coming into the room at night is more than 1 lux. It could be as much as 10 to 15 lux. And even if it's a fraction of a lux, when we open our eyes for the eyes open many times during the night, and we don't remember because it's for a very short duration, and the light enters whenever we open our eyes while we are still asleep, and that starts a chemical reaction in our mind, and which actually disturbs the restfulness of the sleep. where you don't get enough rest. So that's the effect on humans and animals and birds. But what happens is with insects, they normally multiply during the night. The night time is the reproductive time. They don't experience the night. That means they are exposed to light during the night. They do not multiply, and we're losing insects, which is not a good thing. If you, in fact, I always thought that we've lost the jugnu, the light bug, or the butterfly to pollution, but to air pollution. But that was not true when we was studying about the effects of light pollution in China. The effect was on the insects was much more caused by the light pollution than with the air pollution. China also boasts of the like India of the most polluted cities in the world. And everybody thought that it was the air pollution which was killing all the insects. It was the light pollution. And so that affects the pollination. If we don't have insects, we don't pollinate flowers. And if there's no pollination happening, then you are losing out on natural reproductive system of the plants. So it has a cascading effect on the entire population of all beings. So it's this is something which we need to be very careful of. Like we were discussing the other day, that air pollution and air pollution and water pollution gives you instant effect. You would start coughing within a few minutes. And if you are polluted by water, we would feel it probably the next day. But with light pollution, the effect is more subtle, but it is as damaging as it could be. It's just that we don't feel it instantaneously. So if you're not getting enough rest, we know that what happens to our sugar levels or to our blood pressure. So that's something which we would learn with the time, and it's very important to work on it. So, can we go to the next slide, please? Next. So, and the best way, the best part of light pollution is that it can be controlled. There's no collateral damage. There's no collateral cost to controlling light pollution. In fact, when you control light pollution, you're saving money because you're not doing anything extra. So all you need is a bit of awareness, and it's probably the easiest pollution, the most damaging pollution, but the easiest pollution to control. So all we need to do is, everybody needs to be aware of this aspect. Let's go to the next slide, please. Next, please. Okay, and this is an example of Belgium. This was the year when we were to present for the European Parliament, and 2016. And by 2016, starting from 2010, that is when Europe became aware of the damaging effects of light pollution and illuminating the skies. They started working on it. And Belgium by 2016 had already reduced it by more than 50%. And this was very encouraging for us going back to China. And we started working on the city of Shenzhen, and we were able to do it in 4 years. We were able to reduce it by 60%. So the light pollution came to 40% by 4 years of work, and we were able to save on electric cost we were able to save on lighting cost. So it was a win-win-win situation for everybody. Next, please. So this is the kind of awareness we started. We actually were able to recruit as many as 10,000 young children from high schools all over China, and we educated them, and they went around speaking to the general public, to the designers, to architects, to the civil servants, and so on and so forth. And we actually did some, we to explain, to take the message home. We actually did some experiments with these kids, and that was really enlightening. And these kids would remember all their life. Can we go to the next slide, please? Next, please. These are these experiments which we did on some of our live projects. This was a park. This is actually the summer palace in Beijing, and we did experiments with lights, which we were already getting installed in Beijing, and so we told them that how we are doing it, and the effect of the whole. We made them go through the entire process, and these were young children with no knowledge of architecture or design or lighting, and they became so interested, and they were the best ambassadors we could ever get for this cause. So this was fascinating. Next slide, please. Next, please. So what we did in Shenzhen was that our profession was creative lighting design, and we did not want to let go of that, and we wanted to add value to the buildings and to the areas. So we started this campaign with a lot of other lighting design companies. We were leading the project for them, and we started this campaign that creative lighting design can coexist with environment sensitive lighting. So, and this is something which won us the European Parliament award, and where we were able to do both these things together. So unfortunately, most of the lighting designers and architects think that if we are looking after the dark sky and being less polluted, so we would compromise on the design quality, which is not true. So you can be creative. So next slide, please. So unfortunately, most of the lighting designers. Next. So this is how we treated some of the areas. This was a mock-up which we did, and this is a place called Jinhai, and so. The lighting became interesting. We were able to save energy, and we were able to, control the pollution as well. The space became more, lively, more user-friendly, more pedestrian-friendly, so to say. Next slide, please. These are the new things, and Ajay would be interested in them. These are these new developments, these multi-use commercial and residential spaces where they coexist. So this is a place in north of China where we were the lighting designers, and we forgot that there were residential areas on one side and office spaces on the other, and we designed this park considering it right next to an office space, and we were forced to change the lighting of this because there was so much light going into these apartments on the left, and this was quite an experience for us and quite an eye opener for us. We learned a lot from this project, and got a lot of bullshit from the clients as well. So, next slide, please. Next, please. Yeah, this is a classic example. This is a little park which we did, and we just reduced the lighting intensity and nothing else. The same fixtures, dimmed them to probably 1/4, and the effect also became better. So it's like Siddharth was saying, very less light is even better. So next slide, please. This is another example. This is these two pictures are of the same project. The picture on the left was done a couple of years before we moved into the project, and picture on the right was an extension of the project where we used glare-free and less light polluting lights, and the effect we thought was far better, and people could see more. That's what I wanted to show here. When you are controlling the light pollution and you could controlling the glare, you can actually see more. And that is what Adreesh was saying. When less light, he could see much more than with that little light, which was actually with what you could see much less. So your eyes do adjust. The eyes are very, very, they're really awesome devices. So they adjust to light. So, and the lighting levels here would be much lower on the right, would be much lower on the left than on the left, but you're able to see more. Next slide, please. This is another project of ours. China is fond of colorful lights. Here, what we did was we just changed the signage of the building. So the lighting remained the same, and just changing the signage to a more environment friendly lighting. And all we did was laser cut sheets of stainless steel and pasted them on the signage. And the effect on the left became far better. So, I mean, it's all about common sense. And signage earlier was not readable, and it became readable when we when we pasted stainless steel on the signage. A simple solution to a problem. So, next slide, please. This is the Golden Temple. It is by and large environment friendly, I mean, like pollution friendly, but under the circumstances, it is friendly. But we could have done better here. But it's a religious place, so sentiments first, and but the visibility became much better. And the skies are much darker than what they were at the start of the project. Next slide, please. This is another project. This is a very old building, and the client wanted us to do, because there was if you see in the middle, there is a media facade on the building. And these buildings in the periphery became really dark, and the tenants started leaving these commercial spaces because they thought that this building was ghostly when the media facade came into being. So we just lit them up, lit the windows up, and without any light going into the sky or going inside the buildings, and it became quite nice. And the building started competing with the media facade at the background. Next slide, please. Next. So this is an image of the Shenzhen landscape, very less polluting, most of the lights facing downwards, but we were still able to do RGB, which China loves, and without any light pollution. So next slide, please. This we thought was quite innovative. We were able to do the landscape lighting in a way where it was safe for the pedestrians, very pedestrian friendly, and a little playful. And unfortunately, we don't have the pictures here, but children used to love playing in these parks, which we created on roadside areas. So that was a nice example. Next slide, please. Okay, thanks. Another thing which I would like to add, just to give, set the ball rolling on the magnitude of light pollution which we've done, or lighting up skies. As per one estimate, the clouds in Mumbai are 10,000 times brighter than what they were 200 years ago. So that is the kind of illumination we've created in the sky, 10,000 times than 2,000 years ago. And Thomas Edison should be grateful.
Those are some staggering numbers, Sarvdeep.
That's right.
Very scary. But thank you for those insights.